This episode of FSM is brought to you by Fidelity Behavioral Alliance, your number one source for behavior change. Fidelity Behavioral Alliance creates behavior change programs for schools, parents, and organizations looking to reduce problem behaviors and improve performance outcomes. Find out more at www.fidelitybehavioralalliance.com. If you would like to sponsor an episode of FSM, email us at shitmom@gmail.com. That's shxtmom@gmail.com.
It's time to put the kids to bed, so y'all get ready for another episode of For Shitty Moms.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of FSM. I'm your host, Dr. DeLauren, and today we have a very special guest joining us. As you all know, here at FSM, we like to unpack all things relating to motherhood, parenting challenges, and the unique strategies that allow moms to improve their overall parenting experiences. Today's guest is going to help us do just that. Now, today's episode is beneficial to all parents, not just moms, so you may want to take notes as you listen. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Gina Mundy to the show. Gina is a medical malpractice attorney specializing in birth, trauma, and injury. Gina is also a mom, wife, and the best-selling author of A Parent's Guide to a Safer Childbirth. Gina, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, DeLauren. I am very excited to be here today and talk to you more.
Likewise. Now, with your intro, did I get everything right? Is there anything that you need to correct? Is that your correct title? Go ahead and take us through your title, your credentials, your background, and what it is that you do.
Yeah, no, I think you got it right. So basically, I've been an attorney specializing in childbirth cases for right now 21 years. And just so your audience understands what that is, it's basically these are cases involving the birth of a baby, and there's a complication, a mistake. Baby is not born healthy. Baby may pass or mom may pass away during childbirth. So as the attorney, I come in, find out what happened, what went wrong, why. More importantly, what should have been done so mom around to raise her baby or baby born healthy. And those questions have taken me across the United States many times. And then about 19 years deep into my profession, I was stopped in my tracks. Basically, we had a near family tragic event during the birth of a baby in my family. And I was like, wait a minute, based upon what I know in this field, I'm like, basically, there are reoccurring issues, there are reoccurring mistakes. And I can tell you how I would prepare my kids for childbirth is completely different than how, normal family would prepare for childbirth. So I started to write down, these common issues, common facts, things I wanted my kids to know about childbirth, and basically figured out that this is information that could help families all around the world. So then in June 2023, I published my book, like you just said. I started then speaking around the world. More recently, I started my own podcast. But basically, the bottom line is instead of getting involved in the aftermath of something going wrong, I'm trying to get involved before childbirth to help families just prevent the complications, mistakes that I've seen, and have a healthy baby. Because I'll tell you, the hardest part of my job is the day I sit down with the families and, talk about the day their baby was born. So today, still a partner in my law firm, 21 years deep into it, still working on my baby cases, but my jam is more trying to get the information out there beforehand, again, to, avoid, so parents can avoid what I see.
Okay.
I think that was it. Yeah. So my podcast is called, So I just heard my podcast, right? Hey, sorry, it's my dogs.
That's okay.
So podcast is called The Childbirth Attorney with Gina Mundy. It's on YouTube and then Spotify and all the other stuff. I didn't really have time for it, but I had a producer reach out. So I'm just supposed to talk on it, which is so not true. There's so much in a podcast, you would know.
Yeah.
So anybody expecting a baby or whatever, it's obviously, again, getting this information out, making sure, people have healthy babies, because here's the deal. I deal with the preventable mistakes. So if
Okay.
you know what I know, they're good to go. They're not going to see what I see. And again, all of that stuff is in my book.
Okay. Now, in your book, I know like the birthing centers that has become really popular. So, do you see a difference in, I guess, preventable mistakes in hospitals versus birthing centers? Is that something you cover? I feel like it's becoming increasingly popular that people are kind of turning to home births and birthing
Mhm.
centers for that reason. So, is there really like information out there saying that one is safer than the other?
You are so smart. Boom, hit it on the nose. That is the where everybody's going. Is I know two people right now doing home births and one doing a birthing center. Two of them, two people have doulas and whatnot. But yeah, there's definitely a huge shift that I have been seeing. So here's the deal with the baby cases. The most common issue in the cases is the drug Pitocin. Pitocin induces mom's labor. So
Mm-hmm.
now 39 weeks, you get an elective induction, all that stuff. Here's the deal. You're not getting that at a birthing center. Birthing center is not going to let you do a Pitocin induction. You have to go into a hospital for that. And then same thing with a home birth. You're not going to deal with, Pitocin obviously during a home birth. So if there's a complication, if there's a mistake, baby's not born healthy, the number one, again, most common fact, Pitocin. What's the flip side of that? Natural spontaneous vaginal birth, skip the drugs.
Okay.
So that is home birth. That is the birthing centers. They want more of an all natural approach. So in that respect, yeah, you're definitely going to, um, be able, I think, obviously, if Pitocine's not involved, there's less chance of something going wrong due to a mistake or, a complication.
Okay. And that's good to know. I know my husband and I, we were doing some family planning, and that's part of the reason why we delayed for such a long time when I had my son around like 23.
Mhm.
So you don't know what you don't know. And you kind of just go in there, first time mom, first time dad, and you just follow your doctor's lead and you don't really know. And it wasn't until I got a little older and I started to understand all of the risks associated with childbirth, and that really made me delay because you think about growing your family, but then you also think about the risk that you take just trying to get through labor and delivery. So I can say for me personally, I know my decision, I had like spinal surgery, so I'm kind of limited in what I
Oh,
can and cannot do when it comes to childbirth, and that wasn't even brought to my attention until maybe 5 weeks before my due date. It just so happens the anesthesiologist was there when we were doing the tour, and we got to talking, and no one ever said anything about me having spinal surgery and how the epidurals that usually take place, that's not really an option for me. And I had the spinal surgery when I was a kid, so it never dawned on me to even think about it or how it would impact me in childbirth. So it kind of forced my husband and I to look into more natural and homeopathic options, because for me, if something were to go wrong, they were like, oh, we'll just put you under, like, they'll go old school. And I'm asking my mom, like, what is old school? And she's like, oh, they're going to put you to sleep. That's how they did it back in the day. So I was like,
wow.
oh, that doesn't sound fun. And I only have 5 weeks left, and no birthing center at the time would even take me. So a doula birthing center, that wasn't an option. I was too far along in the pregnancy. So just going through those things, and luckily everything worked out through labor and delivery. But there were a few times where the doctor wanted to do something, I didn't really want to do it, and what do? We're here now. So, do you have any recommendations for anyone, like when they're in the hospital? Do they even have options like that? What's the best course of action to take?
Oh yeah. Listen, you got to prepare for childbirth like you did. And that helps you make those good decisions. Here's the deal. Mom's the decision maker during labor and delivery. The delivery team, no matter how they talk to you, I know how some doctors talk. It sounds like they're telling you something. They're not. Everything is a recommendation. So
Okay.
if you prepare, kind of like you, it sounds like you prepared. So they would, when they would talk to you on let's do this or let's do that, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but you had the knowledge base to be like, I'm good.
Right.
And you know what? It sounds like you had a healthy baby. So very, very important to get ready. Chapter 1 of my book, it goes over the lessons from the baby cases. It's on my website for free. Everybody should look at it because as a lesson, you can learn from the past to prevent it from happening in the future. And when I say lessons from the baby cases, it's the lessons from the families, it's the lessons from the delivery team, the medical experts, really on what you need to know. Again, understanding that you are the decision maker and understanding the importance of, getting ready and preparing for childbirth. And listen, I don't just say, okay, this is a lesson. Good luck. No, every subsequent lesson is that every lesson is a subsequent chapter. So chapter 2 is going to go over, things that you really need to know, again, to give you a good foundation to make good decisions during labor. Now, something with spinal surgery, that's so unique. That's not going to be something that's in my book, but there's a lot of other information that would help guide you. And then, so, okay, wait a minute. I know all of this stuff now. And this is not the stuff you're going to find in What to Expect When You're Expecting or anything. This
Mm-hmm.
is what I find important when I'm looking at a new case that comes in and I'm like, is this good care or bad care? These are the
Okay.
things I rely on, but it would give you, again, a good foundation. And then again, you're going to, because of the previous spinal surgery, maybe do some new other research, talk to somebody. Sounds like they really should have like referred you to like MFM or something. MFM
I
is maternal
was
fetal
that.
medicine. Yeah, like a
Okay.
specialist or something, just to make sure you knew all your options. That's kind of, I'm surprised that no one gave you more options. That's actually kind of concerning because, if there was an emergency situation or you did need like that is like, it's right. It's happening. It's kind of late in the game. So
Right.
you did get really lucky during your tour where you ran into anesthesiologists. You're extremely lucky because,
Yeah.
and that helped you, I think, probably, again, prepare more, get your options and
Oh,
whatnot.
yeah. Absolutely. I think mentally, I was fine because my goal was I don't want to feel any pain. Just give me that epidural. Like, as long as I got that
Yeah.
epidural, I heard it worked wonders. I heard it was great. I heard it makes that labor and delivery experience better and more enjoyable for the moms. So, 5 weeks learning that that is not an option for me. I think the anesthesiologist kind of joked around like, "Oh, don't worry. I'm going to do my best and I'm going to get in there. I'm going to try to
Mhm.
get in there." But she was referring to
Mm.
my spine, and I'm like,
No, thank
"Lady,
you.
you're not, yeah, you're not
No,
poking
thank
around
you.
my spine." Right.
Mm-mm.
So,
Nope.
for the last 5 weeks, I was just in a panic, buying as many books as possible to see, what are my options. And luckily, my husband was right there with me. So we read like a lot of books on acupressure and just alternative medicine, things that you can do to make the labor delivery progress, what to do if you stall, and pain management. That was my biggest fear. And it was not a good situation to be in. We only had 5 weeks left, and then my son was born maybe like 2 weeks early. So, yeah, we didn't have a lot of time, but luckily I went out that same day. I bought books and we just kind of practiced like, honey, the book says you got to push here and push there during a contraction, and I have to do this. And so that's what we did for pain management, but everyone doesn't have that option. So I think what you're doing is amazing because in that situation, that day leaving the tour from the hospital, you really do feel helpless. And then you start to hear, like, I'm asking different people, well, what if they tell me to do something and I don't want to do it? And we were told, like, oh, well, they can get a court order. So how likely is that to happen? Is that
Oh,
okay?
whatever. What are
So
you gonna
that's
wake a
not really
judge
a
up? Get a no.
okay.
Hell no. Sorry, I hope you're okay with that. You can
Okay.
say
Well,
that.
that's pretty much what we were told. Like, oh, well, if you
No.
guys get
Okay,
into a
over
disagreement,
a matter like that takes time.
okay.
And just, I mean, when you're making decisions during childbirth, so getting a court order takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a judge's signature after people go and explain everything to the judge. And then there's a certain criteria. I mean, they really need to be, your decision making has to be endangering your baby. And
Mhm.
so, what?
Okay. Well, that makes me feel good because you do have a sense of, okay, we're here now, and you just have to listen to what they're telling you. So it's nice to hear from, I feel like, an expert, right? It's nice to hear from an expert that you do have choices. And
Yeah.
like I said, luckily my doctor, he was very nonchalant because my contractions stopped, my son stopped. Um, I everything just kind of stalled. And he was like, okay, you're a first time mom. I can tell you want to do things your way. And he was like, I'm gonna let you guys do things your way. I'm gonna go. He was like, I don't think the baby's coming today, but I'm monitoring everything. I guess they have everything on their phones now through the apps. And he
Mhm.
was like, I'll be back. Get some rest. I don't think that baby's coming today. And get some rest was probably the best advice that he gave me, because looking back now, I don't think I would have made it. Like, we went to sleep, and I probably arrived around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We didn't have my son until around 7 a.m. the next day. So get some sleep,
Oh,
get some rest.
okay.
That was the best advice, because there's no way, without any like pain meds or anything, I don't think I would have been able to push my son out. I just don't think I would have made it. And I hear that from a lot of moms, like, it's exhausting, it's excruciating. A lot of moms are like,
Mhm.
oh, I thought I was going to pass out. And I think getting some sleep, getting some rest gave me just enough energy to, like, get through the actual laboring part of it. So, knowing all of that and reflecting on my experience now that I'm older, I'm like,
Hmm.
I just felt like there were a lot of chances, and there were a lot of risks associated with it, but at the time I didn't know. So I think it's great that you have created a resource for people who are doing their family planning, or if they're already expecting and need a little more guidance. I think it's amazing that you've created a guide to help families through it, because I was even telling my husband, like, hey, if something happens, this is going to fall on you. Like, if I can't make any more decisions, they're going to look to
Yep.
you to make some decisions. And I don't know. We were both kind of like, okay, like, oh shit, this got real, because they're not going to go to my mom. They're not going to go to my mom.
Mhm.
They're going to ask him. So I think it's amazing. And I do think for sure we are going to go through that book together before we do like any family planning or finalize any decisions. We are definitely going to go through it ourselves, just to have that knowledge and that information, because like I said, we got lucky. And I know a lot of people, they don't get lucky. So thank you for
Mhm.
making that resource for everyone. And where, like, is this something on Amazon? Do you have it on your website?
Yeah, so the default's always ginamundy.com,
Okay.
Gina, yeah, mundy.com. Again, that's where I have the chapter 1. Again, everybody should really read. And then also Amazon is the easiest place to find it. If
Okay.
you just type Gina Mundy, even in the search bar, Safer Childbirth, anything like that, it comes up.
Okay. And
So
I'll
you're funny though. You just said, so in my book, I said something in my book, but then I was like, dash, shit just got real. You just said that. Yeah,
yeah.
like I did not, my book is not swearing. So that's like the only time
Okay.
I swore in my book. And it just happened to be the same exact thing that you just said. But no,
All
so
right.
let me comment on your doctor. I really liked your doctor's approach about resting and whatnot. Sometimes doctors, I think, try to hurry up the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they can get into trouble. So the fact that he was like, rest, I'm going to watch so he's watching the baby's heart rate.
Okay.
So, think about it. When mom's in labor, there's two patients, you, mom, you're easy. Doctor can talk to you. You can report if you have pain somewhere, they can physically assess you and so forth. They can, after asking you questions and you answer and make a diagnosis, a plan, life's great. Baby is much different. Baby's inside you. And the best way to figure out how your baby is doing during labor is their heart rate. And that's why it graphs next to your bed at the nurse's station, the doctor's area, on their phone. So, he seemed like, no, I'm going to check, keep an eye on the baby's heart rate, which is extremely important because some doctors don't look at the baby's heart rate unless they're called. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the fact that he's like, chill out, I'll keep an eye on the heart rate. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was pretty
So yeah, that
awesome.
makes me happy.
Okay. So you have a lot on your plate. Your career, you're an author, you are doing your podcast now, you are doing interviews for other podcasts. How in the world are you juggling all of that along with family and just maintaining your own mental health, self-care? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I have 3 kids. One is 20, one is almost 16, and the 2 older ones are girls, and then I have my little man, he's 10.
Oh, wow.
I also have 2 Sheltie dogs, 2 bunnies, and a fish, and a betta fish that won't die. So, I just looked at its water, it's murky, it lives in, like, murky water, it's the 10-year-olds, right? And, so it lives in, like, murky water, I'm like, "I don't know how it's alive." It's hard, I'll tell you. My house is a disaster. I was hoping my teenage girls, or about 20 and 16, would, maybe help out a little bit more around the house or whatever. But no, my house is pretty unorganized, pretty dirty right now. I'll tell you though, it took 14 months to write my book and thousands of hours while still, being a partner in a law firm and all
Mhm.
that. That was really hard. So I get up, my schedule changed a lot. I get up at 3 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I get up before the world wakes up.
Yeah.
That's been part of my secret. But what's the flip side of that? You got to go to bed at a reasonable time. I can't stay up till 9 or 10 at night. And if I do, it's like everybody saw a ghost if I'm up past 9, you know. I just want to get a shirt that says boo if I'm like, if it's like 9:01. So that's how they look at me. But so
Right.
basically, I had to adjust my schedule. So then I basically feed animals, dogs, kids, make dinner, clean up, and try to be in bed by 7. If it's any later, I gotta take a nap
Okay.
around noon just to get through the second half of my day.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, so changing the schedule was probably the biggest thing. My house, yep, like I said, is unorganized. My social life, that's out the door. That's out. So, and it's funny because I thought when I published my book, my life would go back to normal, being a partner in a law firm and a mom of 3.
Mhm.
No, it's like worse. So,
Okay.
but hold on, I'll tell you, it's hard because getting on podcasts and even talking about my book and helping families, like that's my jam. That's what I
Mhm.
want to do. Like when I am on a show, I am so excited to talk. When I
Mhm.
have to go do my partner in a law firm thing and talk about, right before this, I had a meeting and I have to talk about, okay, what happened to this baby? Why does this baby have brain damage? I'm like, oh, a couple days ago, I had to talk to a mom, whose baby died after birth. And, you get into weird stuff like cremation and all this. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And then, and this is actually very normal, but she wears, there's a big necklace and the baby's inside her necklace
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
their heart and minds the mom's heart doesn't understand that baby's not there.
Yeah.
And, it's so hard listening to this stuff. So that's, trust me, that's why after 19 years of listening to these families, I'm like, all right, I got to do something. So, it's hard because but I'm loving it. And I know I'm helping families, and there's so many people out there appreciative. So, I've been cutting back a little bit more, at work, but then
Okay.
out there, trying to do this. But yeah, no. And then the kids have taken a hit. My parenting. But my husband, so I'm married. Okay, I'm married to a busy business owner.
Okay.
When I started writing my book, kind of chilled out on that a little bit. So
Oh, nice.
he really, we kind of, I wouldn't say switched roles. He's always been a really good dad, but he's definitely more active in their lives right now than me. Again, because, I'm out there doing a bunch of things. So him taking more responsibility and whatnot has really helped. So, but yeah, juggling it, yeah, it's not fun. I mean, but
And what
you got to do
about
it.
yourself? So do you make time for yourself at all? What do you do for yourself?
Oh, yeah. I did learn that. I wish I would have done this earlier in life. But no, I do take time for myself. That is one thing. So, I work out usually between 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. You're going to see me at the gym, kind of, getting ready for my day mentally or whatnot. First Saturday of every month, I get my massage. Yeah. So, and I'm like, okay, well, that's it. Yes, I work out, and on the weekends, I enjoy some wine.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I would say those are things. Oh, you know what else I do? This has been great. You're still young, even though you keep trying to tell me you're older. Well, I'm 40. I'm 48.
Okay.
I'm 48. But IVs. I get IVs like every couple weeks that have like all of these vitamins and all of this stuff. And then they'll give me like a shot of like glutathione. But that I remember when I released my book, the lady who owns the IV clinic where I live, she is an author and owned a publishing company, back in the day or whatnot. She's like, you're going to need an IV every 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay. Almost like, are you paying, by the way? Because they're not cheap. Nope, sure shit. I needed an IV every 2 weeks. And literally I could feel myself, when I go past 2 weeks now, I'm dragging. So yeah. So I would say IVs, massages, and then I work out, and I don't work out really to keep in shape. It's definitely mental.
Okay. Gotcha. And that's good. I love that you found something. All of it sounds enjoyable. Sometimes you get like these self-care and this ideas or suggestions, and it's like, I don't want to do that. This is more, now I'm more stressed out because I don't want to do that. But yeah, I've tried a couple of the IVs myself. A girlfriend of mine kind of put me on to them.
Oh,
And
which one do you
I
got?
agree. We have what is that place called? We have like Allure here, like an Allure spa clinic here.
Yeah.
So definitely the vitamin C. I feel the biggest difference with the vitamin C. I tried a couple of them for just like hydration with the different B vitamins in there, and it didn't do too much. But for whatever reason, once I got the vitamin C treatment, when I left from there, I was like, all right, let's knock this out. So I agree with you there. That definitely helps. Definitely I see a difference with just drinking the water. And I've been trying out this chlorophyll, so the green water. But it's good for like the inflammation. And I feel like a lot of that from the processed foods or salty foods or, just the crazy stuff that we may eat or drink throughout the day. I was definitely hooked on those Red Bulls and energy drinks. So I kind of shifted. I got a little scared, like, oh, I'm getting older now. Like after 35, I'm like, let me put those down. So I kind of traded the IVs, the vitamins, and I traded the chlorophyll water for the Red Bull. So I kind of swapped
Right.
those out. And just for the listeners, because we are like a behavior change podcast, I'm a behavior analyst. So everything that we are talking about today, we're talking about replacement behaviors. Typically, when we're going into behavior modification, really we're identifying the behaviors that we may not like or risky behaviors. We're kind of identifying those, and then okay, what can we replace it with to get the outcome that we want? So a lot of times people engage in behavior change and they don't really know it. So it makes it kind of hard to stick to something when you don't necessarily know what it is that you're doing, right? But for you, you've kind of
Mm.
already listed, you've given the listeners a bunch of ideas of replacement behaviors. And your replacement behaviors sound really nice. They sound really good, and that feeds into what we call intrinsic motivation. So just because it's enjoyable, you're automatically going to start changing your behavior and doing it more often because you like it. A lot of
Mm.
times we try to do things that are good for us or good for the family because, say, morally we feel like this is good for them, but sometimes you just can't stick to it because it may not be that enjoyable. So, and I do hear a lot of moms say the same thing, especially, I don't know, the really, really busy moms, they have let go of the whole like maintaining the household. I don't know if it's like time that has gone by, but I know when I grew up, that was a thing. Every Saturday morning, you get up and you clean that house from top to bottom. And it seems like the more
Mhm.
moms that I interview, they are just outright with it. Hey, my house is a mess. I don't even do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I
Uh-huh.
shouldn't feel so guilty anymore because the laundry is like, oh, the struggle is real with the laundry, especially. So it's nice to hear. And you don't sound stressed out at all with everything that you're juggling between the career. Um, Now you're more so an entrepreneur and doing your own thing and creating a lane for yourself, and you still have to take care of your family. And I know the listeners can't see you, but you look cool as a cucumber. Like, so
You're awesome.
I love
Mhm.
that because I feel like I'm just surrounded by everyone who's trying to do it all. The moms, they're trying to do it all, and they are high strung, myself included. And but this
Mhm.
process has taught me like, why are you trying to do it all? That's not fun. It's not even
Right.
enjoyable. So it's nice to see that you have identified like what works for you and what's not going to work for you. And it is what it is. I tell a lot of parents that I do parent coaching as well. And if you can't sustain something, I'm starting to tell a lot more parents, then don't bother. If it's going to stress you out, if that's not something you can just maintain and incorporate into your daily routine, let it go. Don't even bother. I know a lot of moms are stressed out about their kids and certain things their kids are doing and certain things that their kids are not doing. But I've been telling the moms, hey, if you can't coach them through it and teach them and correct them every single time until they got it on their own, don't even bother bringing it up and mentioning it to them because it's going to become harder to sustain that behavior. So you're kind of doing that already on your own, and I love to hear that. So, how would you describe yourself as a mom?
Ooh, wow. I know. I saw that question coming. So that's interesting. Could do better, probably would
Okay.
be in terms of mom thing. So it's interesting. I wanted to take more of this. Basically, it's like family and friends had a little bit of intervention with me. Like, Gina, you got to stop working. You need to take some time off. You're going to go cuckoo. And so at that point, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to work that much this summer, which is a joke right now, where I'm working just as much. So the only way to get away from it, we do have a camper and I love camping.
Okay.
So last week I took my son camping. He's 10.
Oh,
So yeah. So, and this ties in with how do you see yourself as a mom? This was a huge turning point. It was literally last week. So anyway, so bear with me. But anyway, we hit the camp store and there were 2 cups, and one of the cups, the first cup said world's best mom, Pentwater, Michigan. And this is right when we arrived. And then the cup next to it just said Pentwater, Michigan. And my 10-year-old looks at the cup that says world's best mom, Pentwater, Michigan, and goes, Mom, this cup does not apply to you. So if you want to buy one of the cups, you have to buy Pentwater, Michigan. And I'm like, my heart drops, right? Because I've taken the whole week off work. It's just him and I, and that's what he thinks of me. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So he's a very direct kid, very like he says it how it is, no fluff ever. So I'm like, okay, like he didn't even have to say that. He could have just kept it to himself, but he obviously was trying to tell me something. So that week, I'll tell you, he was like camping with the Energizer Bunny. And I'm like, all right, I got this. And we did everything. We biked everywhere. We played frisbee in the water. We played baseball. So he's a pitcher for his baseball team. So I let him pitch to me for hours on end. We did everything. So we come to the last day of camping, and basically I wouldn't say no to anything. So he'd be like, can we go to dinner? I'm like, sure. Can we go to the candy shop? Sure. Or whatever. I mean, he doesn't request anything crazy. Um, so we have to go back to the camp store because we bought him sunglasses and they broke. So we go back to the camp store and he walks back over to the cups and he's like, okay, Mom. Well, after this week, if you want to buy World's Greatest Mom Cup, that's fine. It now applies to you. And I'm like, oh, thank you. But before that, obviously, I realized that, I wasn't spending enough time with him. I mean, he's 10, or
mhm.
whatnot. And I had also asked him numerous times, like, hey, do you want to bring a friend up? And he's like, no, like you work all the time. I just want to see you. I just want to hang out with you. And he's a pretty social kid. So I'm like,
Aw.
okay. But yeah, so how do I describe? Yep, I definitely need to spend some more time with my kids. But I'll tell you, we got back from that camping trip and I'd leave to go to the store or something. He'd be like, okay, Mom, love you. Like he hasn't said that in years. It's always
Aw.
me saying, all right, Liam, love you. And he'd be like, love you too, Mom. That's his thing, right? So this time it was like he took
Uh-huh.
the initiative after the camping trip and all that stuff. So yeah. So as a mom, definitely need to spend some more time with the kiddos and, just make sure, they're just young ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably my description. So I'm trying.
Okay. And you know what? That's exactly what the show is about. Definitely no mom shaming goes on here whatsoever. And we're all trying. So with the name, I came up with the name because just like you, I realized I'm a little too busy. It's just like, you know what? I can't be the only one, right? But it
Yeah.
seems like there's so little time to do everything that you need to do as a mom. And mainly it's, to provide for your family, to give yourself a quality of life that you want. But there are so many demands out there, it's almost impossible to do it all. And I feel like when I was growing up, my mom kind of did everything in my eyes, and I'm like, how the heck did she do that? Like,
Mhm.
this is nuts. Like, now that I'm a mom, I'm like, okay, I'm just not doing that. This is nuts. So even cooking dinner every day, 3 times a week, like that's not happening in my reality. That's not realistic. And I used to be like, oh, I guess I'm gonna be a shitty mom today, because I'm like, no, we're gonna get some Chick-fil-A. We're gonna call it a day, and that's gonna be it. We'll try again tomorrow. So there are things that I always beat myself up about until I start talking to other moms who don't really beat themselves up about it anymore. It is what it is, right? They're
Right.
unapologetic about it. And I had a guest on the show who was like, "Hey, as a parent, when she gets to that point, it's like, all right, what's the next best thing that I can do right now?" And after that, everything else she kind of lets go. So, with all the experiences
Nice.
that you have as a parent, what is the best advice that you've received as a mom?
Be patient.
Mm.
But I think that goes in hand with, you know, um, high stress job, working all the time. I think you're just more on edge. I mean, I think about it, camping, I was so chill. I was like different. And then after camping, I was different for a little bit until I realized how far behind I got. And not only that, I'm leaving next week for 4th of July week. So it's like I'm in this week and I'm just like, so yes, I might be a little more high stress, which patience seems to go out the window. So I'll be like, okay, remember, be patient, kids, only young once and so forth. But yeah, just being patient.
So, a lot of the questions you've kind of touched on, so I'm not going to go through all of them because you kind of answered them with some of your explanations. So,
Cool.
what advice and this is kind of the same thing, so what are some of the most rewarding experiences that you've had with your kiddos with everything that you have going on? What are some of the more rewarding experiences that you've had as a mom?
Like for instance, Mother's Day, when we're all together, my family knows they have my undivided attention and we just have like a great time. Or even like camping. I spent the week with my son. We were able to kind of rebond a little bit. And like, just like I said, I'm leaving and he's like, okay, love you, mom. Or he gives me a hug. Or, he was like kind of like, oh, I'm 10, don't touch me, whatever. Like, don't hug me or give me a kiss in front of my friends or whatever. But I dropped him off at basketball camp a couple days ago and I totally hugged and kissed him. And he was like, he was okay. I'm like, oh my goodness, I hugged and kissed my 10-year-old. Is everything okay? But, we had just bonded and we were, so tight. But, I think it is too, just, I took that time, I put everything aside. He was my everything for that week. And then getting back and going back into everything, I definitely this past week have been more like, are you hungry? Because he has basketball camp in the morning, but he's home. So it's like, do you need anything? I was more attentive to him versus hiding in my office, working as fast as I can. Um, you know, kind of the mindset that maybe some of this really can wait and whatnot. So, but
I like
yeah,
that.
just the effects of last week and what it's done to our relationship. It was, I don't know, it opened my eyes, and it's definitely kind of moving forward, trying to keep that in mind.
And that's awesome that you gave yourself the opportunity to unplug and reconnect. I think in a perfect world, if we could do that more often, we would. We know it's good, but we don't always do it, or we tell ourselves we don't have time. What do you say to yourself to get through it?
I'll do better. Like, yeah, I mean, these days you have to understand, I mean, my time's so limited. I went out with one of my friends. It was a couple weeks ago now. It was a Friday afternoon. And my kids are like, well, we haven't seen you all week. What do you mean you're going out with your friend? And I'm like, okay, I never go out with my friends, but and I know my little man wanted to watch a movie and I'm like, I'll be back. But I didn't get, I go to bed so early. I did not get back in time to watch a movie or whatnot. So,
Gotcha.
it's just trying to, when I do something, it's hard because I'm kind of like, I have to see my friends too. Like I told you, I axed my social life. So I hadn't seen this person
Yeah.
in 8 months. And not only that, somebody who had been reaching out, like, can we do something? Can we do something? Can we do something? And then we had planned stuff. I canceled 4 times because always, can't really leave the house to see people because then my kids are like, what happened? Um, and it was
Mm-hmm.
funny, I did do where I work out, it was a every Tuesday they meet for drinks. And I went one Tuesday, this is a couple months ago. I went one Tuesday just to say hi to everybody. Again, they do it every Tuesday. I so the next day, Wednesday came and the kids are like, "You want to watch a movie?" I'm like, "It's way too late, guys. Like, I have to go to bed." And it was like they were like, "Well, you just went out yesterday and you stayed out until like 8:30." And so it's like, okay. So I remember that Wednesday I stayed up. So now I'm staying up 2 nights late. I'm exhausted. Thursday rolls around. I'm like, I see everybody at the gym and I'm like, I'm never going to Tuesday night again. I'm like, my family made me stay up last night because I stayed up for you guys. I had to stay up, for them, which is fine. I mean, both nights were fun, and stuff. But I mean, I don't know, just trying to do your best is it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to have a lot on your plate and juggle everything for sure.
Yeah. And I definitely call it the struggle and juggle because you can't balance everything at one time. That's no good. Because you end up doing, I had a mom say you half-ass this and you half-ass that and you half-ass, and I'm like, yeah. So, but you
That's
just give
funny.
attention to what you can at the time. And I absolutely love you are the first mom that I've had on the show to say anything about a nap. And like, that's my favorite thing to do. Like, I
Oh,
will take
yeah.
a nap anywhere, and I don't know if that's just like an unspoken luxury, and other moms are not napping throughout the day, but I feel like it's really important, like you said, to catch that second win. So you are all of these things, like the behavior therapist in me is like, okay, these are some pretty good replacement behaviors, right? To help you maintain the things that you want to do. So you've already kind of built in your own little interventions throughout the day to maintain. And you said something really important earlier is that you really like what you do. You love what you do. That's your jam. So that
Mhm.
intrinsic motivation is really important. And I think a lot of times as parents, we get bogged down with our obligations and we forget to enjoy the things that we are actually doing. And sometimes when you put those obligations as a priority, and you kind of push your enjoyment to the back burner, I've started to notice, like, at least for me, the family doesn't even want to be around you, right? Because you're not really
Mhm.
enjoying the time. You're probably cranky, you probably have an attitude, probably stressed out about all of the stuff that you should be doing.
Yep.
Um, and it defeats the purpose of that quality time. So it's nice to see that you have figured out, like, okay, I am busy. Sometimes I get moms who say they're busy, and it's like, are you really? But no, with everything that
I
everything
know.
that
I've
you
talked
have going on,
mhm.
yeah, I definitely would not step to you like, oh, I just have so much to do. Like certain people, you cannot. I have a girlfriend who's a professor, and I tell her all the time, I can't come to you saying, oh my God, I just don't have enough time. Like you're a professor, you're a behavior specialist, you have 2 kids, you have a kid in band. Like she is busy. So if she can get it done, what are you prioritizing? It kind of helps me check myself. And I feel the same way with you. Everything that you just listed, your job is really important. And you're still finding time to do what you need to do. So I
Yeah.
can't even sit here like, oh, I can't do that. I don't have time. No, you just said you start your day at 3 a.m. So you make time for what you want to do. I like that.
Oh, thank you. You know what? Listen, here's the deal sometime too. Like what I'm trying to do, that's my jam is, help families have a healthy baby. But like, so I recorded my first episode of my podcast. It's Bailey's story. I think I recorded it in April. She had her baby in December. And her baby, she went in with a healthy baby and she did not leave with a healthy baby. And
Mm,
a lot of what her story was kind of the stuff that's in my book, like don't let it happen to you type thing. And so I did make her the first, podcast, but she hadn't read my book. We have a great podcast. She's amazing. She's just trying to get, information out to other moms, like just don't let this happen to you. And why. So then after the podcast, she reads my book. And she's like,
mm,
she said she understands everything in it. It was really hard for her because, basically had she read it before her, the birth of her daughter, things may have been different. And I hear things like that. And, I'll tell you for that 2 weeks after that, it was like, all right, I got to do this. I got to, you know what I mean? So it's always like this juggle, right?
mhm.
So, but yeah, that's why getting out there and talking, because I'm like, okay, is there anyone else I can change their life or I can do that? But yeah, but it's those stories, it's those moments that are just like, they just stop me.
Right. And I think I love the dynamic here because you are approaching things through a more proactive means. So I feel like with your information, with the book as a resource, you're really empowering families to take charge. I work with kids with autism as a behavior therapist, and we get a lot of parents who really feel hopeless and helpless, right, in their situations. And I get a lot of questions all the time, like, why is autism popping up everywhere? Do you really think this is
Mhm.
autism? And to be completely transparent, I don't think every kid that I treat really and truly has autism, right? It
Mm.
could have been something that happened along the labor and delivery, right? That could have led to something else, and now here we are. I have
Wow.
worked with parents who probably had two kiddos who were on the spectrum, and usually all the kids that I work with, they do have a diagnosis of autism. And I go in the homes, I go in the community, everywhere the kids go, I go, right? To help the caregivers, the teachers, and the families navigate different environments for their kids. And I just remember I had one grandparent, she was adamant. She was old, from the islands, and she was adamant, like, nope, it's not autism. I don't care what anybody says. But then she starts telling me the mom's birthing story, and she was like, I think they just had him in too long. Mom wanted to
Um,
continue to try to push, and everyone was saying, hey, we need to do a C-section. So it's just different things, and I never split hairs with the family. I know it's a sensitive subject. And from my perspective, we're here now. That's how I look at it. So I don't know what happened. I can't tell you if it's a true diagnosis or if it was something else. I don't know, but this is where we are now, and this is how we move forward. So that has always been my approach, because I've always looked at it as you get what you get, and how can we make this the most comfortable situation for the family, right? How
yeah,
can we give this child a quality of life? That's what I look at. But how amazing is it to know that there are some things that we can do before you get to that point that might make a difference, right? That might give you a better quality of life, just with informing yourself about that labor and delivery process. And this is not common knowledge. Look, I just told you what the extent of my knowledge was, and I thought I was pretty knowledgeable, right? But
Mhm.
apparently not. All the information I got was wrong. And that happens to so many people who really don't know how to navigate that space. So, thank you so much for all that you are doing, and I really hope your family understands your work and how important it is to other families out there. What do your kids think about what it is that you're doing? What are their thoughts?
Oh, that's a great question, but hold on real quick before I answer that. So just so you understand too, in the baby cases, sometimes babies that have been injured during labor and delivery are diagnosed with autism. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like almost like a misdiagnosis. But
Yeah.
if somebody who's not very educated puts that in their record, then it's like they're labeled and then it'll carry on or whatever. But just so yeah, you understand that I've seen that in a lot of cases where there is a diagnosis of autism. And again, these are cases. So,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody diagnoses them with them, even though it's an injury that's related to birth. So
Right.
that's where my kids definitely give me a break.
Okay.
Is they're like, "Mom, we know you're trying to save babies." So they understand, everything actually based upon what I'm doing. My 20-year-old decided a few months ago that she actually wants to go to school to be a lawyer to do something very similar to what I'm doing.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so they do give me a break. They know I'm out there trying to help families. I think they've seen how meeting with the families, talking to them about the birth of their baby has affected me. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It was Tuesday. I had to depose the mom who lost her baby, and she's hysterically crying during a deposition, holding the heart, which I didn't understand is where her baby was until later in the deposition. But like I don't know if it's from writing the book, and actually you may be able to appreciate this. Writing the book for me for the first 3 months, I actually cried, um,
Mm.
as, I had for the first 19 years of my career really suppressed, I think, emotionally what I had gone through with these cases. So I cried, but then I had clarity, and it really propelled me to write the best book I could to help families. But I'll tell you now, I did the mom's deposition. I picked up wine on the way home because I'm like, I got to calm down. My family's there, and I had told them, and I usually don't share with my kids what my life as a childbirth attorney, but I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I can't handle this one. So it seems like I'm more susceptible to, being upset or emotional, when I do have to talk about, mom who's lost, her baby. It's like, it's really hard. So my kids will see, they were with me on Tuesday. They saw how I reacted, what I'm going through. And I think it helps, them realize what mommy's trying to do. So they do that's probably the only reason they still love me as much as they do, because they do know I'm out there trying to do something that no one else is doing.
That's good. So you have them giving you a little grace, and I think that's important too. Um, as parents, I think a lot of times we shield our kids from everything, but or we try to. And then sometimes letting them just take a peek behind the curtain so they don't think you're just this super
Mhm.
mom who doesn't have any feelings, who does all this stuff and isn't giving them any attention. No, there's a person in there with feelings as well. So I love the transparency and the realness that you are bringing to this episode, because you definitely get to look behind the curtain. Myself, the audience, we get to see what really goes into doing all of these amazing things that you are doing, and it's a lot. And it's nice to hear. I mean, I'm not saying it's nice that you're struggling, but it's nice to hear that someone is brave enough to say, hey, this is not easy, this is hard, sometimes it sucks, sometimes I don't get it right, and my kids are there to kind of call me on it and hold me accountable, but then they're also showing you grace. And I think more moms need to hear that reality so that they can walk into whatever greatness that they're destined for. They need a chance to walk into that, just how you're doing. I mean, you were an attorney, you already had a great career, and now you've taken it even a step further to raise awareness and get this information out here. So you're working on both ends. You are helping after the fact when things go wrong, but you're giving people the knowledge to say, hey, this doesn't have to be your story. This was someone's story. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be the same for you. So thank you for all that you are doing. If someone
Oh,
wanted
thank
to
you, Lauren.
contact you, what would be the best way to contact you?
Always my website is definitely the best way. It has the contact information, my email, which goes to my phone. If anybody needs it right now, though, it's gm@ginamundy.com. Again, it's on my website. It literally goes to my phone. So if you email me, it'll say new contact message, and I'm going to look, because I do love hearing from people, especially if they've read my book. Or I get a lot, even healthcare workers will be like, oh my goodness, I read your book, or come on my podcast, or, whatnot. But definitely the best way will always be that website. And then purchasing the book is best way is Amazon.
All right. Thank you so
Oh,
much. And we'll definitely put that in the show description when we release this episode. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. And I just really love the show, and I can't wait for everyone to hear your story and hear this episode. Thank you so much.
D. Lauren, thank you so much for having me. I'm just curious to see what you're going to make for the title of the show. It's going to be like the childbirth attorney, complete family disaster. No, I'm just kidding. I know. Be like,
I don't know.
yeah,
I'm
much
not playing with
much different than her Instagram account makes her out to be. No, you know what? I
that.
love what you're doing. I'm so comfortable. You mentioned cool as a cucumber. You made me cool as a cucumber. I'm a little
Okay.
more on edge or whatever, but your voice, like the way you talk, what you say, I think is just incredible. I learned so much just sitting here, listening to you. So, thank you for my kudos, but kudos to you, because I know families that listen to your
Oh.
episodes. I mean, this is great. This is really great stuff for families. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I think we're on the same mission. Just get the information out there and let's empower moms and families.
I
So
love it.
thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hey everyone, it's your favorite BCBAD here, Dr. DeLauren, and I'm here to ask you to help us continue making great content for listeners everywhere by visiting www.forshittymoms.com, where you can make a monthly contribution. Also, visit us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok at For Shitty Moms, and that's shitty with an X, not an I.